who is Namaskaram. I'd like to today we convene here to start speaking on the Dravidian movement in Tamil Nadu from the genesis till and its status today, how it is affecting Hindus and the Hindu society. Today I welcome therefore H. Rajaji, who is an expert and authority on the subject and who would let us know about the Dravidian movement and how it is affected Hinduism and Hindus in Tamil Nadu. Raja Anna is a great politician from the BJP. He's a practicing chartered accountant and a lawyer. He's also been a great missionary for Dharma and started the temple reclaim movement and popularized it. He also took legal actions against Varayamuttu for his slander against Andal and the Karpur group, which slandered and abused Hindu gods and goddesses. So I welcome Rajaji to speak on the Dravidian movement and the status of Hindu society in Tamil Nadu. Over to you, Rajaji.
Good morning, everybody. See, now we hear about the dismantling of Hindutva conference. But this dismantling of Hindutva or Hinduism, the concept has started in Tamil Nadu in 1838, when the Irish Bishop Caldwell landed at Tinaveli. He started converting people. When people refused to get themselves converted, he started floating so many theories, stating that nobody is original citizen of India, original habitant. So, in Tirunelveli, large number of Nadar community people were living. When they refused to convert themselves into Christianity, he immediately wrote a book, a small booklet of 70 pages, stating that the Sanas of Tinaveli, that is, the Nadars of Tinaveli, they are not original citizens of India. They are Sinhalese from Sri Lanka, and they are most untrustworthy. He used all abusive languages in English dictionary against the Nadar brethren in Tirunelveli area. Then there was a huge uproar, opposition, agitation by Nadar community people. Caldwell was compelled to withdraw his book. Then he started the myth of Aryan invasion, because he studied Indian society, that the Brahmins in Tamil Nadu, they were guiding the Hindu society. They commanded big respect from all communities in Hindu society. So he then floated the theory of Aryan invasion. Before him, there was no mention about Aryan invasion in India. Rightly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has called that the right place for the myth of Aryan invasion is the dustbin. But we have to admit one fact. Unfortunately for people of Tamil Nadu, the Dravidian outfits have succeeded in brainwashing the Tamil people. So, the first start of this attack on Hindu religion was carried out by an Irish bishop whose main job was to convert people in India. Only for that purpose he was sent to India. Then another pope, who is called G.U. Pope, he landed in Mylapore in the year 1840, 2 years after Caldwell landed in Tirunelveli. Then G.U. Pope named himself Pope Ayyar, because since the Brahmin community at that point of time was having a very big respect and acceptability in the society, he named himself as Pope Ayyar. So these people have started spreading hatred against Brahmin community with the view that through that the Hindus may be discouraged from going to temple or accepting the priesthood, and they would definitely believe whatever these people say. So the Caldwell again made an attempt and wrote a book, Comparative Grammar. In that comparative grammar, he was comparing that with Dravidian languages. That is, for him, the Dravidian means Tamil, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and Andhra Pradesh. So these languages have more resemblance and roots from Uzbekistan. Whereas the fact is, all Indian languages are they belong to same family, because whether it is alphabets or E or the Kanga Chanya, only difference is in other Indian languages there is a letter for every difference in the sound. அதாவது ஒளி வடிவத்திற்கு வரி வடிவம் உண்டு. But in Tamil that is not there. We use padam, da also there, pattam, ta also there, but the letter is same. But the Caldwell has distorted everything, and in his book Comparative Grammar, he related Tamil language, Dravidian languages to that of the languages in Uzbekistan, but not in India. And especially he started a hatred against Sanskrit. But Sanskrit has got a lot, every language in India has got lot of words from Sanskrit. Even the word Nichayam, Dravida, all these words are from Sanskrit literature only. So he wanted to spread the falsehood and make people believe in it. So they found political space in Tamil Nadu, because in 1919, the Congress party has decided not to participate in any elections in India under British Raj, because Tilakarji has given a call, Purna Swaraj. So Congress decided not to participate in any elections under British rule from 1919, from the non-cooperation movement days. So the Justice Party was founded, which was a pro-British party, and it participated in elections in Tamil Nadu from 1921 to 1936. Justice Party has been ruling in Tamil Nadu. That is the political predecessor to DK-DMK. Even now, the Tamil Nadu finance minister speaks very highly of his forefathers, because they belong to Justice Party, which is not at all a case of merit, but yet they make the claim that they were the descendants of Justice Party. But I can quote many instances of the Justice Party being anti-Dalit. Justice Party was doing everything to suppress the Tamil pride even, because many people world over, even within India, they all believe that the DK-DMK are all Tamil movements. No, they were doing everything to destroy even the name of Tamil during their rule and in their political discourse, because in 1926, Justice Party brought in a GO telling that in Madras presidency, those who speak Telugu, the Dalits who speak Telugu, will be called Adi Telungar. But those Dalits who speak Tamil will be called Adi Dravida. See, what should have been the case? If those who speak Telugu are called Adi Telugus, then those who speak Tamil should have been declared as Adi Tamilar. But here the word Tamil was so the Dravidian parties had aversion to everything Tamil, everything associated with Tamil. So in the same GO, the Justice Party government named the scheduled caste people speaking Telugu as Adi Telugu, speaking Tamil as Adi Dravida. That was one case of the Dravidian movement which has been against Tamil. Then again, in the Ministry of Justice Party, right from 1921 to 36, there was not even one minister belonging to the scheduled caste community. And Ivera was rank anti-Dalit. Because all these things have been camouflaged, and Ivera was projected as a social justice leader, which was not a fact, because under the Congress plan guided by Mahatma Gandhi, the temple entry movement was started. In Tirupati, Sri Rajaji led that temple entry movement of Harijan community people. And in Madurai, Justice, Mr. Lawyer Vaidyanath Iyer, he led the SA community people into the temple, Meenakshi Amman temple. But Ivera opposed it. He told that they should not be allowed to enter temple. If they are allowed to enter temple, then the Shudras would go down to the level of virgins and will not rise up to the level of Brahmins. So scheduled caste people should not be allowed to enter temple. So that much of anti-Dalit leader is projected with sheer media propaganda, their power of propagation as a social justice leader. So this made an impact in the society that we have to accept. And then Ivera was anti-Tamil also. He told that, yes, I oppose the Hindi, not to make this Shanian Tamil as the official language here. You learn English. You talk with your servant maid in English. You talk to your wife in English, but don't use this Shanian Tamil. So systematically, because Tamil and Hindu have been synonymous. Without Hindu, the Tamil language is not there. Without Tamil language, the Hinduism and the Bhakti movement would not have flourished in Tamil Nadu. So Ivera opposed Tamil also. And in 1944, after Dalit, in 1936, Government of India Act was made, and since more powers have been given to provincial governments in Government of India Act 1936, Congress decided to participate in elections. So in 1937, if I remember correct, India was having 8 provinces at that time, except Bengal province. In all other provinces, Congress had got majority, and Sri Rajaji became premier of Madras presidency in 37. So this Justice Party lost its political space. So immediately Ivera started DK, Dravida Kazhagam. So it had its first conference in Salem in 1944. In 1942, Congress gave a call, Gandhiji gave a call, quit India. So in 1944 DK conference, they passed a resolution. That is, Gandhi says British to quit India. He has become insane. Even to treat him, we have to bring doctors from Britain. So the British should not quit India. If they quit India, there won't be bus, there won't be telecommunication. India cannot even produce a safety pin. So Britishers should not quit India. If they quit India, all scientific innovations will quit India. So they should remain in India. Even if they decide to quit India, they should rule Madras presidency from remaining in London. The meeting was presided over by E.V. Ramsamy Naikar, and the resolution was moved by none other than Christian Annadurai, who later on became Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. So this DK movement has been this Justice Party, DK, DMK, these people have been stooges of British. That has been an established fact, and when this resolution was printed in Hindu, next day, the DK hooligans attacked the Hindu office itself. So this DK movement is a pro-British movement. And Evera even once told the people, if you want to have a religion, you convert to Islam. You see, the problem here is, in Islam, polygamy is there, triple talaq is there, but a person who is hailed today as a votary of women liberation, he advocated people, he exhorted people, if at all you want a religion, then you become Muslims. So such was the history, such has been the history of the Dravidian movement in Tamil Nadu. But what happened? Unfortunately, because of the incompetent and misrule by Congress, that especially between 62 and 67, there have been scarcity of food grains. Rice was not available for the people. People have to stand in queues in ration shops for hours to get the 7 ounces of rice per week for one family. Such was the situation there. And Sri Rajaji had grudge against Congress because it disrespected him, it sidelined him. So he walked out of Congress and started Swatantra Party. And this political situation prevailing in 1967 made to DMK rule in Tamil Nadu in 1967. But from 67 onwards, the anti-Hindu movement has been institutionalized by the DMK or even ADMK governments in Tamil Nadu. They have been targeting the education system prevailing now, and also the Hindu Religious and Charitable Endowment Ministry. See how deeply penetrated the evangelist forces into the education system. It is highly alarming. I'm telling one example of how these people subtly working towards dismantlement of not only Hinduism, even dismemberment of India. See, right from first standard, students will be taking a oath every day. In that it states, India is my mother country. Now what do these people have done? Even we don't know what our children are studying in the schools today. That is the situation of general public of Tamil Nadu. They have removed mother. India is my country. That means it's just a piece of land. When you say that it is mother country, motherland, then it has got life, blood, flesh, bone, everything. But when you say it is just a land, India is my motherland, it's just a piece of land. What is that if it is one piece or 10 pieces? So now subtly, because all the people who are controlling the textbook society, the advisory board textbook society, are all anti-Hindus who have been having their leanings from pro-British leadership. In the same way, now even for the textbook society, the chairman is one Leone, who has been day in and day out abusing the Hindu religion, the womanhood. But such a person is made the chairman of the Tamil Nadu Textbook Society. And in the history, during our student days, we used to study about Adi Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, the Chola dynasty, the Pandyan dynasty, the Chera dynasty. But now, astonishingly, Chola dynasty has got one para in the whole textbooks in the schools. But do you know about other dynasties? About the Mughal dynasty, right from Babur to Aurangzeb, everybody is projected as great social leaders. Akbar the Great and Aurangzeb has been praised as he used to make sweater, make money out of that. He was living only out of that money, like this. So now these people are brainwashing our children through the education system. Nobody knows who is Rajaraja Chola, who is father of Rajaraja Chola. You see, in whole of India, Chola dynasty under Rajendra Chola was the biggest in the whole South Asia. But nobody knows about Rajendra Chola, even in Tamil Nadu. So these people projected Tamil society as a separate one, and they projected Tamil society, which has been as our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji used to tell, Yadum more Yavarin Kelir. See, every place is ours, everybody is our relative. That was what Kali Pungundan has told. But this large-hearted world community, Tamil community, which is Hindu community, has been projected as a quarrelsome community, whether it is in Sri Lanka or Malaysia. You see, in Malaysia, I am told the Tamil community is slowly moving towards the path of extinction. There is a very big danger for Tamil society. These people don't do anything for Tamil society or Tamil, but in the name of Tamil, these people are doing everything to destroy Tamil, Tamilian, Tamil Nadu. I am telling an example. Yesterday, what has happened? In Benares Hindu University, our Honorable Prime Minister Modi ji has announced a chair for Bharati to propagate Tamil in Benares Hindu University. There is no opposition. Kindly imagine that there is one chair created. It is not possible, but yet, for the sake of argument, a chair is created in the name of Kalidasa. There would have been hundreds of abuses against such a move. But in Uttar Pradesh, nobody opposed it. Why? Because we talk for the whole nation. Subramanya Bharati is part of that our Indian culture, Bharatiya culture. Thiruvalluvar has been our respected sant. So, in Tamil Nadu, a sort of mindset that is, we are say a separate one. Then we don't belong to this country, or we don't belong to this Hindu culture. Now this DK movement, which has been anti-God movement, now they have become that we are Saivas, we are not Hindus. We worship Shiva, but what about Kailash? So these people are spreading all sorts of falsehood and hatred towards Hindu religion. And not only that, in this 120 days, Mr. Stalin's government has been doing everything against the unity and integrity of India, slowly, in every respect. Even in referring to central government, they call it a block government, Undriya Arasu. And then whatever is the law created either by Supreme Court or by Parliament, resolutions are passed, though it is just has got the value of a waste paper, but they are bringing in resolutions against Supreme Court judgment, NEET, against the enactments of Parliament, which relates to farm laws or CAA. The Tamil Nadu government is doing systematically. They know well, as a chief minister or a leader of 70 years old and 50 years public life, he should be knowing well that the resolution he passes doesn't have any legal value. It cannot be implemented. But yet, he wants to continue to seed in the minds of the people that we are separate. We will not accept Supreme Court judgments. We will not accept the acts of parliament. So, this Dravidian movement, which was started as a stooge of British and which has been propagating anti-Hindu values in the society, now a big danger of even unity to India, a threat to the unity to India is there under the DMK's rule. So that is why we have been for many years propagating in the public about all the dual standards and imaginary and falsehoods that has been deliberately spread by these people. But in Tamil Nadu, it is not just 75 years problem. In Tamil Nadu, it's an issue which has been there for over 183 years. Systematically, the pro-British outfits have been encouraging, and they were getting stooges in India like EVR, Anadurai, etc. and they have been propagating it. But now we are exposing them in the public. But another danger in India is now, for the past 3 days, there has been one dismantling Hindutva conference. But in Tamil Nadu, there are 4 divisive forces which are out to dismember India, dismantle Hindutva. That is, 1, the Tamil nationalist group, separatists, those who propagate separatism in the name of Tamil. But these people have never contributed anything for Tamil language or Tamil culture. Now they talk about Tamil worship in the temple. But even several hundreds of years back, Devaram, Tiruvasagam, Divya Prabandham, Tirupavai, all these things have been told by our forefathers. And there has been a Tamil worship there throughout several centuries in Tamil Nadu. But yet they want to divide the society. So they are talking about it. So Tamil separatist 1. And another jihadi forces. Tamil Nadu has been the hotbed of jihadi terrorist elements. Whoever commits terrorist activity in Kerala or Karnataka, they immediately come and take shelter here. Because the Tamil Nadu government, Tamil Nadu police, they are not taking any action against these people. Even the several arrests of terrorists have been made only by NIA, not by Tamil Nadu police. This has been a hard fact, but unfortunate at it. And then the evangelist forces. See, I was candidate of Karaikudi. The postal ballot is given only for the government employees who are there on election duties. Out of 3,000 postal ballots, more than 60% is of Christians. What does it mean? The whole Tamil Nadu educational institutions are filled with Christian teachers, systematically by the Dravidian Party rule, because they want to brainwash. There is one Subisesha toolkit which has been distributed to the teachers in government school through government teachers organization, JACTO, government employees organization. This is distributed in this, after Stalin has come to power, this has been distributed. So first is Tamil separatist, second Islamic terrorist, third evangelist, fourth is urban naxals, because they don't want any industry or development in Tamil Nadu. Then only youths will remain unemployed and they can be armed. So these are the 4 destructive forces, anti-national and anti-Hindu forces that has been active in Tamil Nadu. I think the central government is aware of this and is taking steps, but it will definitely take some more time because we have to move under fixed structure of legal system and constitutional system. So I am confident that the central government will seize this opportunity through the government machinery, since we are at the center, and we would control and eliminate all these anti-Hindu and anti-national forces in Tamil Nadu.
Rajaji, I would like to ask some questions to you. Like, for example, now, even now, the anti-Hinduism is so rife in the present government, the present Stalin government. For example, the Ganesh Chaturthi celebrations in public was completely banned. Like, we are not allowed to install Ganesh Murtis in roadsides, like with, of course, permissions. And the procession for immersion of idols, Ganesha idols, in the beach at the end of the festival is also banned. Whereas parallelly, all this in the name of COVID protocols, right? But parallelly, they are allowing the Velankani Annai festival, which is nothing but the Mary festival, right? They are allowing the processions of Mary to be conducted. All that they are saying that we request the Christians to not gather in large numbers, whereas it is completely banned for Hindus. Not only that, in the Adi month, holy auspicious Adi month, they have closed all temples on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, and all the auspicious festivals are falling on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. So they are thereby even not allowing us to go to, or say we are not even allowed to go to temples for prayer. Like, could you please speak about this?
You see, not only this, I will add one more. On July 24th, on the day of Bakrid, the Muslims in large numbers, in thousands, they were having their namaz on roads. See, regarding the temple, I have started one movement, Hindu Temple Reclaim Movement. These Dravidian parties in these 54 years have been looting the temple. Now, because the government, the temples are under the government control, they are able to close it on Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, which is not acceptable to us. And not only that, the loot of temple properties and income in these 54 years, ab sab tajjub ho jayenge, so it could be to the tune of 10 lakh crores. Not a small thing, because in Tamil Nadu, under the HRNC, there are 44,000 temples, and we have got 4,78,000 acres of wetland, dry land, and rain-fed land. So these lands, most of these lands are now under illegal encroachment. And the government has been looting the temples left and right. Even they have scanned respect for the HRNCE Act 1959, because the act specifically says government can only take 14% of the income of the temple for giving salary and administrative expenses for their officers. But now they take 100% of it.
Okay.
And the problem is, now only the awareness has started coming amongst the Hindu community, and yet they are not coming to streets. But regarding this Vinayak Chaturthi, even I have before my house, I have installed a 6 feet Ganesha. They say that one should not have more than 3 feet. I have got a 6 feet Ganesha and worshipped, and tomorrow it will be taken for immersion. So now we need to fight these anti-Hindu activities of this government, and they will never take action against even criminals of the other communities. In Palayangotai, thousands of Muslim youths staged a dharna demanding that the convicted prisoner, Muslim prisoner, should be released. But the government has allowed it. Police was a silent spectator. Unfortunately, in Tamil Nadu, the police fears to take action against Muslims or Christians because they may be incurring the wrath of the government, their masters, political masters. That is why they are only attacking Hindus. Even in Karur, Ganesh Murthy was demolished, broken. So such is the attitude of police in Tamil Nadu. We have to fight government might also, along with the anti-Hindu propaganda. We have to face the government atrocities too.
So the archakas are hardly paid, like the government has taken over the temples. All the income goes there. The archakas are hardly paid 50 or 100 rupees, and most of the money goes to fatten up the IS officers and others. And not only that, now they came up with a new resolution, new government order, saying that in the name of EVR, of course, that all castes would be allowed to become the priests, and for that they've said that they would be having a HRNC certificates would be given, where some 6 months course for Agama Shastras would be imparted, and people with those certificates can only become archakas, and all the traditional archakas who study in Ved Pathshalas, they are being thrown out, literally thrown out. Like I've seen many videos of that, and they even put a 60-year-old retirement age for these archakas. Could you please speak on that?
See, it is bad in law. Definitely, we will win this in the court. That is, the government's order is against the Supreme Court's pronouncements. Because when DMK came to power in 67, first I want to make one thing clear. In Tamil Nadu, the HRNC department has got 44,000 temples. All community people are archakas in these temples. That is, making all people archakas through order is itself a fake claim. Because already all the communities are archakas. For example, my family deity is in Tanjavur Ayyanar temple. Only a Velar community pujari could do puja there. I cannot enter sanctum sanctorum. Nobody can for that matter. When even the Agama temples, there are only 4,000 Agama temples. And all other 40,000 temples, all community people are archas there. That is why I am telling, even in my family deity, only a Velar community pujari is there. I cannot enter sanctum sanctorum. And so, but these people are distorting. But see, the very DNA of DK, DMK is falsehood. They would spread false news and bring in certain laws to control the temples. Who are given employment now? Those who garlanded the statue of EVR, the atheists, people belonging to DK and Tirumavalavan's VCK, they have entered the temple. But definitely, as per the judgment pronounced in 1971 in Seshamal and others case, because when Karunanidhi, when DMK government brought in such an act, then Seshamal and others approached the court, and in 71, Supreme Court has given verdict that according to Article 25 and 26 of the Constitution, we have to protect the denominations, because Article 26, the very caption is protection of denominations. So the denomination should be protected according to Constitution. And in that judgment, the judges have told that was 7-member constitutional bench. Even a 5-member Supreme Court bench cannot nullify that judgment because it is a lesser bench. So in 71, the judgment given by constitutional bench is, unless and otherwise Article 26 of the Constitution is amended, no state government can bring in such act, which through government order this atrocious DMK government is doing now. So in that, judges have told already out of 44,000, only 4,000 temples are Agama temples. So in the rest, everybody is there. Here also, if Article 26 is amended, then state governments can make law. But this DMK government will not demand amendment to Article 26 because judges have also pronounced Article 26 can be amended only if it is applicable to all religions and not to any one particular religion. So if Article 26 is amended, then the government can appoint Muttalib of mosques. They can appoint anybody, pastor of churches. Anybody can be appointed by government.
Absolutely.
So this false social justice government of Stalin will not demand any amendment to Article 26 because the judgment was clear. And not only that, again in 2006, when Karunanidhi became chief minister again, he made the same law and trained some 200 people, 203 or 206, I don't remember exactly, people on Agamas. Then how can one be trained in 6 months? See, one has to take Veda Agama studies for 12 years. Let anybody, because the first distortion is the Vedas cannot be learnt by all communities. It is wrong.
Yes.
Vedas can be learnt by all. See, there is no Varnashrama now. But even during Varnashrama time, Brahmins learned and they were mandated to teach Vedas. But other Varnas, they can study Veda, but not teach Veda. That was the arrangement during the Varnashrama. But these people distort everything. These people are only half-baked people. For example, I would like to tell one thing. These people say that Krishna Paramatma has taught division in the society. He created Varnas. But Thiruvalluvar has told Pirapokkum Yavarkum Sirappu Sirapova Saidovil Vetramayan. Valluvar has told by birth everybody is same. But in the next sentence he has told by profession there is difference. That is what Krishna has also told. Chaturvanyam Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vibhasha. The difference was in Guna qualification, Karma job. But these people say Krishna has divided the society, Thiruvalluvar has united the society, Pirapokkum Ella Uyirkum. But they never tell the next sentence. Sirappova Saidovil Vetramayan. So by design, these people are now doing this, but it is bad in law. It will not stand the scrutiny of judiciary. We are already preparing the affidavits and the case, and we are confident of winning in this.
Yes. And sir, your legal action on Vairamuthu, he abused Andal, the great saint poetess, as a prostitute. You would like to say something about it? Enlighten us about it.
You see, Andal has never gone to Trichy. Those who have studied Andal, Vijay Lakshmi Navanitha Krishnan, there is one folk song singer, very famous, who was awarded Padma Bhushan last year. She has done PhD on Andal. Then she told me she was on tears and she refused to take food. Then I went to her house and persuaded her to give up her fast. At that time, she has shown all evidences that Andal never went to Trichy. But Vairamuthu was telling that she was Devadasi in Trichy. So all these things, you see, that article of Vairamuthu was the 13th article in Dinamani. In all the other 12 also, for 4 columns, he would price. In the last column, he would tell falsehood about that Hindu icon or the Tamil icon, whichever way they claim. And this has been his practice. For example, he was telling when he was writing about Thiruvalluvar, he told that the Sanatanavadis used to tell Chaturvida Purushartham, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksham. But since Valluvar is a Tamil poet, he has not accepted that. So he has not accepted Moksham. He has written only 3 chapters, Aram, Porul, Inbam. That is Dharma, Artha, Kamam. See, what is the fact? In the first chapter itself, the 10th Kural was Piravi Perungadal Ninduvar Nindar Iraivanadi Seradar. So he talks about moksham in that first chapter itself. So he distorted Bharadiyar, he distorted Vallalar. That is why I have thought that thus far no further Vairamuthu, you cannot go on abusing the Hindu icons, and that is why we have Hindu groups have proceeded against him in the court also. He wanted quashing of that case against him, but the court has ruled that no question of quashing. There is prima facie evidence of your abuse of Hindu godly persons. So you should be prosecuted.
So, would you like to sum up saying how do we enthuse Hindus to sort of protest against this anti-Hindu DMK DK movement that is going on in Tamil Nadu? How do we come out together so that we can stop this nonsense? I mean, this anti-Hindu nonsense. Can you please, in short, in 2 minutes, please conclude how can we take actions against it? What can we do?
You see, the weapon which we can use, what weapon should be used is decided by our opponents. So this century-old anti-Hindu Dravidian movement, they used false propaganda as their main weapon, which our Hindu elders, they have not countered at that appropriate time. That is why now through various moments, there are so many Hindu outfits in Tamil Nadu now, which has been telling the facts and tearing the face of these false social justice leaders, and it has started giving impact response, because some 7-8 years back I spoke about the real face of Evera, that British too is so anti-national. He called 1947 August 15 as Black Day, and he abused the Tamil language. He was insulting his own wife, and moreover, Proteag of Evera has written in his book that he used to be in the prostitutes out every day. So all these things we have been telling the public. This DK DMK movement is built over the false image of Evera. So now it has started falling. I will not claim that we have got the desired impact now, but if we continue with our propagating truth about these false gods, because Evera told there is no God now, he is deified and he is made into a God. So if we propagate to the youth about these false gods, then definitely in near future, I am confident of bringing in change in the minds of the Hindus here.
Thank you so much, H. Rajaji. We hope to see you
Thanks
again.
a lot for the opportunity given to present my views.
It's an honor for us to have you here to speak about EVR, the bust the myths about EVR, and to say that Tamil Nadu should have the real Periyar, I mean, Subramaniam Bharati as the real Periyar, and demolish the false gods or demolish the false Periyars like EVR Ramaswamy. So thank you so much for being with us.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, Namaskar. We will then begin with the next session in a few minutes. So, till then, like we are very thankful for audience from all over the globe, from India, US, America, Europe, in all different timings, being with us and share and seeing our beautiful conference, which we have put together with great efforts for you to know about the global Hindu, about the status of global Hindus, the way we suffer from a four-dimensional attack from the red, green, and the white, the communists, the Christianists, and the Islamists. So we would now be going on to the next panel shortly, and we will be talking about jihad, that is the multifarious attack or influence of jihad on Hindu society as a whole. We will be chatting on